panel. Alex, let me start with you. The White House said President Trump had every right to do this, I suppose, in the sense of the First Amendment he does, but there are certainly ethical concerns here. There
sure are, and Jake, actually, this is sort of the rare Trump action where you can't say this is exactly what he said he would do during the campaign. That's what the White House has. That's how the White House has defended virtually everything he's done since taking office. Is that the voters knew what they were getting. This is what he promised them. He actually promised them over and over on the campaign trail. If I become the president, my business, my family's business, that is all peanuts by comparison to what I want to do for the country. And so the shift there, I think it's really alarming both to ethics experts and to people in his own party who do just see this as just an ongoing source of tension and drama that will just drive them away from the policy goals that they want to move on.
Charles?
I agree with all of that, and it does show that he's as petty as he ever was. But I think why I dislike it more than anything else is it's just the ongoing politicization of everything. I really wanted a president after Obama who was a little quieter, a Calvin Coolidge type, just so that we could calm down for a few years. But now we're dragging every single pop culture, every single business question into politics. It seems to be getting worse, not better.
I think there's a serious issue of conflict of interest here. He walked into the administration a walking conflict of interest. We've learned about the emoluments clause, and he's in violation of the Constitution. But what saddens me is less what Charles said, but this country has serious problems. We're looking at a world aflame. We may go to war with Iran. We may have a new Cold War. These an escalating arms race. We need jobs. We need health care. And instead, he's spending time doing something, by the way, which I guess his daughter is separated from her own business. But why can't a woman stand up for herself? Why does her father need to do that? So I think it's a politicization in a terrible way that distracts us from the real politics.
One of the things that every president says is the moment they start getting the national security briefings as the nominee of their party, and then even more so when they become the president, you find out about a whole bunch of things that you can't even imagine. You couldn't have even imagined how great the threat is in terms of terrorism. President Trump addressed that today. Take a listen.
Believe me, I've learned a lot in the last 2 weeks, and terrorism is a far greater threat than the people of our country understand.
Now, he's using this, Katrina, to make the argument that his travel ban on 7 countries, as well as the refugee ban and on Syria, are all needed and necessary.
Right. And he's also using it to, again, delegitimize the media and saying that the media has not given adequate coverage to terrorist incidents, which is ludicrous. In fact, one could argue that the media has overplayed terrorism.
That's what we always used to get.
Which is the saturation coverage. And as you pointed out the other day, this administration had no use for the white supremacist incidents of terrorism in Canada. But I think this is an administration that, unlike Roosevelt, and we're in the first 100 days, thrives on fear. So they have everything to fear if fear declines. But the delegitimization of the media, Jake, I think is a very, very serious issue. And of course, he's doing this preemptively, as you said, to justify a travel ban, which is in fact alienating allies, possibly hurting our very fight, a counterterrorism fight, which should be recalibrated anyway.
I've heard, Charles, that a lot of legal experts actually think that the president's lawyers have a pretty good case to make, that he actually might have the authority to impose this travel ban, given especially that the longest one in it, well, except for the Syrians, is 120 days.
I think there may be a good case. I mean, constitutionally, the Congress, the executive branch, have been given plenary power over immigration. There's a statutory question. Is he acting within the laws from 1965, and I think it was 1952? I'm not quite as sold on that one, but I'm open to being so. And today he stood up and he read the law out, which was, I thought, quite a good move. He's quite the showman. Unfortunately, he's accompanied that with attacking judges, with criticizing the court. Now, Obama criticized the court too, and he was no angel in this way. I think Trump went a little further because he singled out a judge and essentially said he was incompetent. To me, that was the mistake. The idea that this is prima facie illegal is not convincing to me at all.
And you heard Jeff Zeleny here earlier in the show saying the president's own lawyers, both in the White House and at the Justice Department, are cringing when he does this because this doesn't help him win the case.
No, and we've seen this sort of over and over again with Trump. I was talking to one of the state attorney generals who's suing him over this ban, and they were saying, look, the last time he attacked a judge, he paid $25 million for the privilege in that Trump University case, right? That this is not, no lawyer would advise someone who's a party to litigation to behave this way towards the judiciary, let alone the President of the United States, let alone on an issue like this. And to Charles's point, I've certainly spoken to lawyers who have said there's probably a version of this ban, a version of this order that would, you know, pretty quickly stand up to scrutiny. It doesn't happen to be the one that they actually issued, that they got this one out so quickly that they probably left themselves more vulnerable than they needed to.
Think about this. Just a week ago, the Assistant Attorney General, Sally Yates, was pushed out. And now you have, I think, 27 judges who have essentially sided with the argument that not only she is making, but former secretaries of state, former national security officials. You may be right, there may be constitutional basis, I don't know, but this does feel un-American, and it feels like it's violating the very democratic institutions we want to uphold.
Katrina, Charles, and
Thank
Alex,
you.
thank you so much. Really appreciate it.